I'm Al Blakeborough. Everybody calls me Blake, kind of like Madonna or Prince. We are a veteran-owned company. We are providing a business that will allow 32 million small businesses to get qualified and vetted tax professionals to give them tax quotes. The Tax Titans will benefit small businesses with reduced cost by way of competitive bidding while expanding the market for tax professionals at no upfront costs. So my question for everybody here is, who here has paid taxes? Raise your hand. How many people in this room would like to pay less taxes? Raise your hand. Okay. Who wants an easy online platform to find qualified and vetted tax professionals to help you do that for free? Raise your hand. All right, I got a whole bunch of new customers. The platform is a peer-provided platform. It's going to allow small business owners the ability to obtain vetted tax professionals and based on their costs and criteria. So you'll be able to sit there and go, I want the lowest price. I want the person who's been doing taxes the longest time. I want somebody who speaks Spanish. I want somebody who speaks Russian. So I'll be able to communicate with my accountant in any way, shape, or form that I want to. COVID has shown us that nobody needs to be in an office. Everybody can do everything remotely. Our target market for the first year is to go after the 32 million businesses that are registered with the IRS. These are people that are C Corps, simple partnerships, S Corps. The cost savings is basically any time that you wind up entering competition in any product or service, you get the best price. For accountants, the big buy-in is the fact that they get 90% of their bills. So if you work for an H&R Block, you work for a Jackson Hewitt, you get paid anywhere from $15 to $20 an hour. Now you'll be able to make about $100 to $200 an hour. It's easy to use. It's basically based on the same type of platform as Uber, Priceline, Airbnb, and Amazon. The platform kind of looks like this. The benefits of it: low overhead, ease of scalability, low compliance impact. How many people in this room think that you have to be a CPA to file taxes? How many people think you need an accounting degree? In order to file taxes with the IRS, you pay $20. You get what's called an IPIN number. You could have been bagging groceries at Walmart yesterday and file taxes for the IRS. They will allow them to take your money and e-file it. The ROI for the tax professionals is 90%. We have gotten partnerships with Gleim and Drake for recruitment of the accountants. We have an on-go revenue stream based on contracts with the accountants called legacy agreements. So for as long as they're doing the tax preparation for that small business, we get 10% of that revenue from now until the end of time. Fits very well into the new gig economy. How many people have heard about the new legislation that everybody's going to be getting a 1099-K next year for their taxes? If you are Etsy, eBay, DoorDash, Uber, and you've been running underneath the federal IRS not filing for the last 10 years, that is about to end. That is the reason that they are hiring 87,000 new IRS agents. We have an easy payment system. Once you pay on the platform, 90% of that goes to the accountant, 10% stays on the platform. It's easy for small business to review the qualifications. So you sit there, you get a quote, you can take a look at the person's LinkedIn page, their website, if they have YouTube channels. Partnerships and marketing. We are creating strategic partnerships with businesses that sell to tax professionals and small businesses. We just landed ADP last week. We're talking to Aflac now. Gleim has signed on with us. They are the top study and prep course for enrolled agents and CPA. Drake is the top tax platform for people that integrate with the IRS. They have 70,000 licenses with CPA firms across the United States. ADP, that number is actually wrong. They have 920,000 small businesses that are going to be getting an email when the platform goes live in November. And then most recently, we have signed with TaxHive. So those of you who know Kevin O'Leary will be able to see him hawk our stuff on our platform come November. He owns a company by the name of TaxHive that does tax planning for high net worth individuals. One of the big things that we're doing is we're allowing and we're creating a program For military spouses and transitioning veterans, our big thing is they fought for your freedom. Now we're going to let them fight for your tax dollars. There's not a lot of good military programs that allow a transitioning veteran or a military spouse to have financial independence and get into a good job after the military. We're creating that first with taxes and then other things in the financial space industry. Some of the local folks that we have is Upstate Warrior Solutions in South Carolina, Veteran One, SECO, and Military One Source. Our military impact for when we're going to the bases, we identify the tax professional. We have a test through GLIME that identifies the person's ability to become a tax professional. Step 2, once they're identified, they become enrolled in the program. Step 3, Drake winds up providing the tools for them to be able to do the taxes. And then step 4 is they're on our platform to get their first 100 customers and receive payment. Okay, and one more. How much did you pay for your tax preparation? That is it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, a couple things. One about the pitch. So, you're obviously in a space where there's always going to be need and demand. So that's good. It's promising. Love the veteran angle. That's great. It's a real thing, and it's great to see you guys putting those guys to work. That's wonderful. There's a couple things. One is I would like to maybe hear more cleanly exactly what the problem statement is. Everyone has to do their taxes. I get that, but that in and of itself isn't a deep business problem. The deep business problem here has to be around kind of sourcing the capability or the professional, right, for these small business owners. And so maybe a little bit more about the shape and the form of that problem would be kind of interesting. Okay. The other thing is, this is a very well-worn business model, right? It's a marketplace. You got people who need stuff. You're going to get people who can do this stuff. You're going to bring them together. That can be, you've seen it with doctors and interior designers and, big aggregators like Angie, right? I need a plumber. I need a whatever. So when I'm looking at and evaluating marketplace models, the two things that are most important to me are who are you monetizing most? A lot of times people try and monetize both. Rarely can be done. You're usually monetizing either the consumer who needs the help or the professional who you're lead genning for, essentially. I want to know very specifically what the economics of that monetization is. And the reason why is because if you're monetizing the tax professional, the economics of customer acquisition are very, very different than the economics of customer acquisition if you're monetizing the consumer. Because consumer customer acquisition is insanely expensive. If any of you have ever been to PitchBreakfast before, you'll hear me say this every time I see a direct-to-consumer deal. It's whatever is in your spreadsheet, it's 10 times that to acquire a customer. So when you're talking about raising capital and use of proceeds, if you're onto a customer that is a consumer customer, I'm going to look very, very closely at what you're forecasting out as sales and marketing expense and cost of customer acquisition, because it's very, very high in direct-to-consumer. If you're monetizing the accountant, that's a bit more B2B. Interesting, can be done kind of on a network basis through partnerships like ADP, which seems like where you're heading. But as an investor evaluating it, I want to see very specifically those economics and who you're making money off of, and then what your use of proceeds are against kind of capturing that audience or that customer. Other than that, those are just kind of tweaks to what you've put together here and some more specifics, but I'm sure there's a business in here. I have no doubt, so it sounds interesting for sure.
So I don't want to be a co-panelist with Steve anymore because he steals all my questions. So I have a secretary in the Philippines. I have for the last 10 years, right? I got her off Upwork, right? She's great. Yep. She can't get enough work. Yep. Right? She's awesome, right? You got to fill two sides of a marketplace to really make it worth something, right? Mm-hmm. Which side's going to be easier, the tax preparers or the small businesses?
The tax preparers are easier because we're giving them 90% of their bill. In us signing with GLIME and them sending it out and getting the feedback from the CPAs across the United States, they have identified that's been a problem for about 50 years for them to do two problems. One, get new customers, like the lady in the Philippines you were talking about. The biggest problem with CPA firms now is to offload their bottom 25% of performing clients. They don't want to fire those people. They don't want to tell them that we don't want to do their taxes anymore. Now having a platform where they can say to the people, hey, it's not worth it for us to do your taxes anymore. Go to Tax Titans, find a vetted, qualified professional to do it. That allows them to free up their time to then bring in new clients that are paying for other services such as financials, advising, bookkeeping, and payroll. So for them, they're offloading 25% of their underperforming clients to our platform. And then the people that are new to the industry or through mergers, middle management accountants who get squeezed out, know that they're not going to make partner and go open their own firm. Now for a free app, they can get new customers in.
So what you're saying kind of resonates with me because like I don't typically socialize with accountants and tax preparers. Yeah. However, the ones who I know,
Yes, you do.
They have more work than they can handle.
Correct. And
Like
that's the other
they're
side of it.
swamped.
Yep.
And so like they're not. Yeah, you're nodding. Are you one of those people? Yeah.
I'm going to be building that.
Oh, okay.
military spouse
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
So they're so they have more work than they can handle, and so going and getting a low-end customer is not on their list of things to do today.
No, it's not. Their biggest problem is that if they fire the bottom 25%, because word of mouth is how accountants currently get their clients, they don't want to have the reputation in their community that they fired the bottom 25%. So through our platform, because the small business is putting up how much they paid in last year's return, if they go, hey, I want to look and I want to field people who have paid $1,000 or more for their previous tax return, this is somebody that I'm going to take in as a client. Now I'm going to take the bottom person in my client base and I'm going to lay them off. And I can literally go one-to-one letting go of a client while I'm bringing in a new client.
So the second question I have is this, is my current customers are small businesses.
Yep.
Right? And do you believe that small businesses view tax preparation as a commodity service that they can outsource to a marketplace? Or do they believe it's a value-add service that the person who does their taxes meaningfully helps them?
They believe, the ones that we have spoke to believe that it meaningfully helps them in the aspect that now they're going to be able to review the person's credentials. People go into a H&R Block, they go into a Jackson Hewitt, they literally are put in front of whoever's available. There's no way to walk up to that person and go, hey, can I see your resume? Hey, can I talk to 5 or 10 people that you've done taxes for before to get a feedback to see that what you're giving to me as my tax liability to the IRS is the best that I've gotten. Basically, every small business person that I've talked to, they say we never argue with our accountant. We go in, we have our taxes done, they hand us a bill, and we pay it like mafia money so that we don't get audited by the IRS. It would be nice because as a small business person, the reason that I work for myself is I like control. I would love the ability in one of the things that I have in my business to be able to review the person that is providing that service and have some control over that.
And do you think small business people are okay with the idea of having an accountant who does most of their stuff and a tax preparer who's discreet? Is that the way they operate today, in your opinion?
Operating today, from what I understand in talking to the small business folks, they are just happy to get somebody that's qualified and that's competent.
If you don't mind,
Yeah, please.
one other thing, like, as a presenter, you're great. I mean, like, it was really good, charismatic and good, and a good communicator and all that stuff. And I love, like, that you freaking logoed everything, and, like, it's really good. Like, it really is good. I think when you're presenting to professional investors, VCs and stuff, I might not emphasize the mission part of the business quite so much.
Okay.
A lot of times VCs are kind of cynical about mission-based businesses because it's hard to do good and do well at the same time.
Sadly.
It really is. And if you come in and say, I'm going to do both, there's a lot of VCs who will just stop listening.
Thank you.
It's good to be aware of. It's true.
Uncool, but it's true.
Yeah. The one problem I think you're going to have to solve, and maybe you have already, but just something to think about it is, this seems to be the case in marketplace after marketplace. The thing that ruins them first is shitty reviews. So I would spend a lot of time thinking about how you're profiling these tax professionals, how reviews happen, how they become preferred, how credibility is built in the marketplace. I mean, the asset is the professional, and there's nothing worse. I mean, I can't tell you, I don't know how many people have used Angie before, but it doesn't matter how many stars they got, they still don't show up, right? So
we have things in place to prevent the negative loops and things that we're doing with our own internal call center to perform positive loops.
yeah, I think that's a really important thing and can help with customer acquisition because marketplaces are just wrought with just all sorts of misinformation and poor processes and algorithms for kind of making recommendations, and that's important, I think, to this and to the credibility of it. But
And that's one of the things that's a founding principle of the company is that the tax professional has to have 2 years worth of experience. We vet that as a former recruiter for Robert Half and running the Charlotte office. I'm very cognizant of the fact that right now you walk into an H&R Block, you don't know if that person's been doing it for 6 weeks or 6 years. So on our platform, you know that you're guaranteed someone who's got 2 years worth of experience and they have at least 5 verifiable business references that they've been doing that job.
yeah, I think domain, even in the small, but you would know this better than I do, Chris, with the work that you're doing. But I bet that even in that small business tier, especially that tier you're talking about that may drop out of a firm, domain expertise is probably important too. As you know, obviously, you're in the space, that tax stuff is insanely nuanced and changes all the time. So I would think looking specifically for somebody who has worked with, I'm a plumber or I'm a whatever, and they've done taxes for that before. They're familiar with what can and can't be written off and how those things work. And so to me, the profiles around the professional are not just are they good, are they qualified, but have they operated in my domain expertise so that they're familiar with what would be the nature of my...
And it seems like providers could profile themselves.
That's where
that way.
the tax advantage will come from.
Real quick,
I am awesome at plumbers and love it.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that. I'm
That's
that
what I
guy.
do. Yeah.
There is in the IRS code, there's a business code that says whether or not you're a hairdresser, you're a plumber, or you're an electrician. So when you're a business and you're putting that in there, you put your business code. And then on the matching principle for your...
going to match into...
Correct.
Good.
Yep.
I like that because I do think there's still enough nuance in that even at the small business. That closes the gap on Chris's question, which was the nature of his question was really if a small business views this not as a commodity but as a value add, then they're unlikely to go to a marketplace for it because marketplaces are generally considered commodities. So I think that closes the gap on the point that he was trying to make, and so I think that's important. Yeah, good stuff.
All right, let's give it up for all of the companies that pitched today. They did a great job.